Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friendship Moments. If you've been watching us on Facebook or YouTube, we really appreciate it. If you would hit that like button, leave a comment, maybe subscribe to our channel, you'll get to see much more content that way. And but like I say, we appreciate y'all watching. Tonight's message is it's going to be a little different. It's entitled Getting Out of Your Comfort Zone. God has been able to get me out of my comfort zone a lot here, and I'm kind of going to talk about it a little bit. But, maybe God's gotten you out of your comfort zone. And you may be like me, you may be saying, but, why me? Well, that's not the right question. The right question is, why not me? And my dad told me a story a long time ago. I was a young man. I guess I was 12, 13 years old. I was too old to whip or give a spanking to, so he kind of set me down and talked to me a little bit. And he told me about the time when he was, his brother had just come out of World War II. World War II was just over with. My dad was too young to enlist, but his brother had gotten home and he had been wounded in battle. And my dad was getting out of high school and he wanted to join the Army, like his brother. And that was his plan. That was what he was going to do. So he went down to the recruiting office and he walked in, and the recruiter took one look at him and said, "Sorry, boy, can't take you. You're too small." Dad probably was 5'8", 5'9", weighed 120 pounds with 2 pockets of rocks. And I told him, I said, you're just too small. Well, that really disappointed Dad, because that was his plan. That's what he was going to do. There was no question. And I guess the recruiting officer kind of looked at him and said, "Well, hang on a minute. I got a friend. He's a recruiter at the Air Force. Go down there and talk to him." He said, "Maybe he can help you." Dad says, "Well, okay, I guess I'll go to the Air Force, talk to them." So he went down there. Walked in the recruiting office. The recruiting officer said, "You're the guy I've been looking for." And Dad found out later why he said that. So he joined the Air Force, and I guess he went through basic training, and then they told him he was going to be a gunsmith. Now, my dad had never fired a gun in his life until he was in basic training. I'm sure he did, but they told him he was going to be a gunsmith and that he would have to be servicing the guns. And at that time, some of the bombers, the bigger bombers, they had their machine guns, and you had to be a small person. You had to crawl in the back to be able to fire the gun, or in the turret or something of that sort. But in order to service the guns, you had to be even a smaller person to get in there to work on them. Because anytime you fire a gun, you got to clean it. And that's kind of what Dad's job was. Furthest thing from what he would have ever wanted to do. Well, time rolled on there, and he enjoyed it. He was enjoying his time in the Air Force, and they had to go on maneuvers somewhere. I want to say maybe it's in Connecticut or Vermont somewhere, and they were in Nashville, and they were going to have to catch a plane in Nashville and fly maybe to Washington and catch on another plane and go to this other base. And when they got to Washington, all these planes, they were I think they were called C-47s. They were transport planes. Most soldiers they would carry would be like 25, maybe 28 soldiers. Whereas today they got these jumbo planes that carry several hundred soldiers. But at that time they would only carry just a small group. And they were all lined up out there on the runway. All these planes lined up in order, and soldiers were all standing there milling about, talking and waiting to get ready to be told to get on the plane. Well, my dad was standing there, and some of his friends were in the plane next to him, and they're telling him, "Hey, come on, go with us. Go with us." And Dad said, "No, I can't do it. I got to stay with my unit. Got to go with these guys." That's what they told me to do. That's what I'm going to do. I said, no, come on, we're all going to the same place. It won't matter. I said, no, this is what I'm going to do. Well, about the time they fired the engines up on the airplanes and the propellers are all spinning and everything, and it's all noisy and windy and all this is going on, and they get the orders to board the planes. Well, my dad, he said, I do not know, son, why I did it. But he said, I got out of that line, and I went and got in that other line on that airplane. And we took off. And when they got to where they got to their destination and they landed, they took them all off the plane and put them in a room back there and told them, said, let's just sit right here just a minute. We got something we got to tell you. He said, when those planes left this last base, one of the planes had a mid-air collision. And the plane it ran into did okay. It was able to land with minimal damage, but one of our transport planes went down, killed everybody on board. Now, my dad was supposed to have been on that plane. And he told me that to tell me the reason. He said, son, he said, sometimes you just got to step out of line. Sometimes you think you might be doing the right thing, and sometimes you think you might be doing it in the right direction, but you're really not. And he said, I don't really know how to tell you how to know the difference. But he said, I don't doubt in my mind for 1 minute that it was God that put me on that other airplane. And that's kind of the way God has done me here lately. I worked most of my life. I had a full-time job when I was 13 years old. My dad, he was smart enough to put me to work to keep me out of trouble. And I'd always said, I'm never going to retire. There's no way I can sit home and be with my wife and us get along. It's either going to be a homicide or a suicide or both. Something's going to happen. But my wife got sick, and she had to go to the doctor quite a bit. And I just couldn't take off work enough to take her. So April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2021, I said, I'm through. I'm done. And today is, I guess, today is August 2nd. And I've never missed it. Not 1 second have I missed being at work. So God kind of took me out of that comfort zone that I was in, going to work every day, getting up, taking a shower, brushing my teeth, eating my breakfast, even driving in the traffic. It was fine. I was fine with that. Didn't bother me a bit. But he took me out of that comfort zone. And he put me in another one. And that was to take care of my wife. Make sure she went to the doctor. Make sure she was taken care of. Whatever she needed, I would do it. Well, okay, God, that's a good plan. I like it. We're going to do it. Let's go. Like I said, in April, I retired. Well, things rolled on here about November. I was in the grocery store, doing my little thing, pushing my little cart around, packing up my little items. My wife, she'd always make out the list. And I'd go and I'd buy it, put it in, bring it home. She'd put it up, whatever we were doing. And I was in Publix, and I was pushing down the aisle, and I turned to go down the cookie aisle. Of course, you got to go down through there. And I don't know what happened. I can't tell you to this day what happened. But all of a sudden, this big rush came over my body. I don't know what it was. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got to get away from here. Something's wrong. I don't know what, but something's wrong. So I'm starting to back up, and I've got hold of my buggy, and that was the last thing I remember. That was it. Out. Fortunately, I always like to go to the store early in the morning because there wasn't very many people there. Fortunately, there were people there that morning that knew what to do, that came to my, I needed assistance right then because I had fallen backwards, pulled the buggy back on top of me, whammed my head on the meat counter, and I was out like a turnip. I was done. But I saw the video, and a guy and a girl came up and took care of me. Saw to it till the ambulance got there, of course. And I'd had this to happen once before. I was in Books of Me, and this was 1995, I guess it was when it happened. But anyway, when the ambulance got there, they told me later, they said I was combative. Now, I'm not a combative person at all. If I can outrun you, I'm sure not going to fight you. And they took me to the hospital, loaded me up on the ambulance. They had me strapped down, man. I had welts all over me. Boy, when they strapped me down, they strapped me down. And they wanted to put me in ICU. Well, at that time, COVID was just going crazy around here. And there was no ICU to be. They couldn't put you in there. I was lucky, or I was blessed, that I was even in the emergency room because there were people waiting in the hallway to get into an emergency room. So they took me in there. Now, I don't remember any of this. I'm out. And they tried to send me to Birmingham, and Birmingham was the same way. They said, look, you can send him down there, but we don't have no place for him either. He said, best thing you can do is just keep him up there, make him comfortable, see if you can figure out what's going on. And so they decided that they had me sedated at that time, so I would behave myself, I guess. But they decided to wake me up, just see what was going on. So they woke me up, and I remember waking up, seeing my wife, seeing my daughter, seeing my brother, and maybe some other people. Maybe they didn't register, but things were real blurry at that time. And I'm thinking, what are y'all doing at Publix? I didn't know what was going on. I was out of there, man. But there again, my plan, not God's plan. The worst thing about having a seizure is for 6 months, you're not allowed to drive. I'm thinking, God, why me? You had me retire so I could take my wife to the doctor or wherever she needed to go. And now you've put me in another position to where I can't drive. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, fortunately, I had wonderful friends and family that anytime I needed to go somewhere, anytime I needed something, they were right there, man. I mean, I could fill a book of names of people that's been just wonderful, that's helped me and helped me get through this thing. So I went in out my shop, I got me a new calendar. And I got me one of red Sharpies. All right, can't drive 6 months. Day 1. Every day I go out there. Day 2, can't drive. Day 3, can't drive. All the way down to May the 6th of this year. That was my get out of jail day. That was my day. I would be paroled. I'd be able to drive again. Okay, God, we're good. You're good. We can drive again. Go back doing what I was doing. Like I said, my wife had some health issues. One of her biggest issue was she had cirrhosis of the liver. It's called fatty liver disease. And the only possible cure or possible treatment they can is a liver transplant. And she was 68 years old, had a lot of health issues, and liver transplant wasn't going to happen. So we decided, okay, let's just do the best we can. Let's eat right. Let's do the right thing. Let's make it as good as we can get it, okay? And the doctor told me, he said, this could go on for 10 years. He said, I can't give you a date. He said, but there's one thing you got to do. He said, you got to keep her healthy. If there's somebody in the room that's got a runny nose or earache or something like that, get her away. Because if she gets any kind of infection in her body, he said, it's going to go straight to her liver, and it's going to make everything in there 10 times worse. So that's what we did. Unfortunately, she got a urinary tract infection, and at the same time she got an ear infection. And she went from cirrhosis of the liver to liver failure. Your body can live with a lot of things, without a lot of things, but cannot live without a liver. So I've been out there marking my calendar, looking for May the 6th. And we had to put my wife in hospice about that time to make her comfortable. Because I promised her I would not let her hurt for anything. And she fought a hard fight. She was a Christian. She loved God. She loved Jesus. And I know where she is. Because on May the 15th, about 12:30, right after church, I'd just gotten home, she passed away. And, well, God, I've gotten off a line. I've gotten out of line again. I'm getting on another airplane. And I don't know where it's going. But I know who the pilot is. His name is Jesus. He's the one flying my plane. I don't know where we're going, where he's going. That's where I want him to take me. And I don't know what part of my life is going to maybe change or what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, I know, because he's in charge. I'm not in charge. I know that. I can't, there's nothing I can do, okay? My best days is worthless. But I just want to encourage you. I know it's kind of like a sad story, and I know it is, but I'm happy, okay? I'm happy. I know my wife's in heaven. I know whatever was hurting her is not hurting her anymore. And, there's a song that I like to hear. I play sometimes. It said, the only scars in heaven are the ones that are holding you now. And that's exactly the truth. That's what Jesus does for you. His scars is what's healing her. I wrote down several scriptures right here I wanted to read, and I don't know, maybe I'm not. One of my favorite ones that helps me, and I hope it helps you too. Because if you're going through something right now where you don't know, where maybe you don't know which plane you need to get on. Maybe you're in line, you're fixing to get on the wrong plane. Maybe you need to step over and get on this other plane. Well, how do you know? Get on your knees. That's how you'll know. Jeremiah, book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and future. I thank you so much, God, for what you've done for me. Like I say, I'm on a plane now, and I don't know where it's going, but I sure know who's flying it. And when we get there, it'll be fine with me. Let us pray. Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you because your word is a lamp to guide me and a light for my path. I've declared change in my life, and the season of transition has finally come upon me. But I rejoice in knowing that I have the best guide. That's you, Lord. You knew me before I was formed in the womb. Therefore, you know what is best for me. I pray that you continue to reveal to me through your word where I should go. And in the name of your precious Son, Jesus, I pray. Amen. Thank you.